The CEO of Polestar has claimed that drivers are scared of change and are to blame for the slowing uptake of electric vehicles. The CEO was asked why consumer adoptions of EV appear to be flattering. Thomas Ingelow said, and I quote, Europe's Tesla said, "To tell you the truth, I think that it's about being open for innovation and the future of technology. I see far too many people hesitating with that and being scared of change, that it's just not a good recipe for the future." Mr. Ingelow claimed that rivals are slowing their electrification plans were falling into a trap. He said that the manufacturers pumping the brakes on EV rollouts plans would be left at a disadvantage given the complexities of launching a new vehicle. Mr. Ingelow told the Telegraph, "There's an incredible threat and danger if you don't embrace future innovations and believe in that technology. The electrification drivetrain, the innovation in battery, the innovation in modern electronics and softwares." He also said if you don't participate in that and you think you can wait and consumers are ready for it, it's an incredible trap. Manufacturers, including Mercedes, Ford, and Aston Martin, have warned that demand for electric models is not as strong as previously expected, with consumers still wary of high prices and uneven spread charging infrastructure. Now, here's a chart displaying the lack of charging infrastructure. It's causing a huge impact in the world, as we know. Many companies are working out and building their own infrastructure, while a lot of EV companies and EV customers have to rely on third-party charging stations, which are not always that reliable. And you've got to think, for a lot of people buying EV vehicles, they probably own a house. They probably have charging infrastructure at home. But for those who don't own their own charging infrastructure, for those who live in apartment buildings that simply don't have that infrastructure ready to use at mass, they're probably considering the fact that it's at the moment it's still much easier to own a petrol vehicle. It really is. While a lot of EVs, they're still quite expensive. Not to mention, in some places, charging your EV is actually becoming more expensive. Remember, that used to be part of the incentive to switch to EVs. The fact that electricity was supposed to be a lot cheaper than petrol, if you look at mileage wise. In fact, the Tesla CEO took it as far as to say in his early days at Tesla, well, not the early days, but I remember 2013, 2014, he used to say superchargers were free forever.
Supercharging technology, which is the most advanced charging technology in the world. This is something that allows you to make a brief stop at one of our Tesla supercharger stations, charge your car very quickly, and be on your way. Something that's unique about the supercharger is that it's free. It's not just free now, it's free forever.
Well, it's not that case anymore. So what changed? Perhaps the Tesla fans out there can let me know. What changed for Tesla? Why isn't superchargers free anymore? Was his math just completely off? Because you're selling someone a car, telling them superchargers will be free forever, but then you turn out to be charging them. I think that idea sort of died down a long time ago as well, to the point that a lot of people don't even remember that he said that. But this was the early 2013, 2014. It was a while ago, to be honest. We're talking like a decade ago. Many companies have either delayed or reduced their EV ambitions as a result, despite the fact that government's deadline for axing combustion engine remain in both the UK and the EU. Now listen here. The government, they're not really providing enough help, are they? They're saying, we want all you companies to produce only electric vehicles by 2030. But they're forgetting the material, the cost. We're just not there in terms of technology. It's too soon. And a lot of these government bodies, they say these things, but now they're actually actively looking at changing it. And I think this was always the plan, that it could get changed. It will get changed. These manufacturers knew it. The government knew it. But why did they say it? Well, it certainly calmed us down, didn't it? So I guess them saying it worked. It did what it's supposed to, calmed us down. But now that we're at a point where it's fairly obvious that electric cars are still incredibly expensive. Now, second-hand EVs are actually more affordable. I've seen Teslas at 25,000, 27,000. But these are second-hand EVs. Not everyone wants a second-hand EV. People still appreciate a new car that's more affordable. Which is why I think vehicles like the Volvo EX30 will be very popular. I think vehicles like the new Rivian R3 will be incredibly popular. Also, the R2 will be popular as well. That's starting at $45,000. It's going to be popular. So gradually the prices are going down, but they're not going down as fast as consumers wanted. Support is being given to companies. Look at companies like Arrival, Rivian. Look at companies like Canoe. They desperately need a lot more support from their individual governments. We don't see that support. When you look at countries, big countries like Brazil, you look at big countries like that, are they helping any Brazilian EV companies to become global? The governments, they want something to be done, but are they even helping enough? And this is not a conversation that's had enough. There needs to be more conversation on this. I don't think the government are doing enough, because it's up to the government to provide help and support to manage their infrastructure. You know, we pay our taxes, they use that money, but what is it being used for if it's not something as useful as creating cleaner air? And when you speak of creating cleaner air, building electric vehicles, that still creates a huge amount of emissions. So perhaps making that process a lot greener would also benefit us. That's not talked about enough. So at the moment, it's all a mess. If I'm being completely honest, it is all a mess. So I kind of understand what the Polestar CEO is saying, but I also have my own opinion on this matter, and I've just stated it. So let me know what you think. The CEO also said, and I quote, "As a pure electric company, we're convinced electric propulsion is a technology which is superior. It is not a question of being electric or being combustion engine. This is a question of who has the convincing, great product. I definitely think it's worth the battle, and we will win this one." He was speaking after his company secured $1 billion lifeline from the bank after Volvo, Polestar's former parent company, announced it would withdraw financial support. It followed a succession of missed targets by the brand and a share price collapse. I've explained this in other videos. I've explained why Volvo gave up some ownership of Polestar, why they gave up the financial responsibilities. They haven't gave up complete ownership of the company. They still own like 18%. And they'll still be helping Polestar in development, R&D, sales, and aftermarket in plenty of areas, but just not financial. And it makes a lot of sense. I've explained this in a video, so if you want to see that video, let me know. I'll send you a link. Something interesting that this article does mention is of course, Polestar IPO in 2022, valued at about $11.5 billion. However, since then, the company has lost 60% of its value and has failed to hit key delivery targets. I think they've lost a lot more than 60%. Am I wrong? Because Polestar stock right now, it's like less than $2. So I think they've lost more than 60%. But you know, looking back at the IPO, 11.5 billion, that's not as big as you would think, is it? Now that we're in 2024, we've looked at so many different companies. That's actually a relatively small IPO for the type of company that this is. Rivian instead was like 80 to 90 billion. Now that makes a lot more sense, to be honest. At the time we thought it was overvalued, and it was crazy. To a certain extent, it was kind of overvalued. But looking back, I guess it made sense because Rivian needed a lot of capital to fund their projects, to fund the R2, to keep developing the R1S and R1T. Makes a lot of sense. So it's about making money, but it's also about how do these companies survive long term while they get limited support from the government? How do they survive on their own? Now there's always bank loans, but here's the thing about loans. You have to pay it back in good time. So that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think. It's a whole lot of information, but I appreciate you watching this video. Subscribe to see more, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.